Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. It is I am the one and only Maxi here once again, and ladies and gentlemen, we've only got about roughly 6 more days to go until Mario Plus Rapid Sparks of Hope for the Nintendo Switch will be releasing by that time, so I just want to classify that. So anyways, hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Maxi here once again, as I said before, and I am back for yet again for the likes of the Maxi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario 3D All-Stars while we're playing through Super Luigi Galaxy playthrough on the Super Mario Galaxy game on the Nintendo Switch. So, last time we somehow managed able to beat Bowser for the second time as Luigi, and as a result, we've managed able to get ourselves our next Grand Star, in this case Grand Star number 5, and exponentially, we also managed able to actually access to the 5th dome, which appears to be the engine room. So as a result, yeah, we actually doing not too shabby around here, despite I accidentally to somehow managed able to get done a biggest mistake from the likes of the secret mission in the forms of Gold Leaf Galaxy, but that's okay, because either way though, there's no such thing as bottomless pit or anything, so that's a good sign in my book. So today, for this video, is the fact that we're about to be able to still continue things on in terms of the engine room dome, and as you can see right here, we somehow managed to beat Cosmic Luigi again, from the likes of the forms of the Cosmic Luigi Forest Race. So, but at the very least though, we actually did manage to get ourselves a nice boost start this time around though, because unlike in the forms of how it does it on, you know, the actual Freeze Flame Galaxy one, that basically though I didn't seem able to actually use the startup boost because, well, you know what I mean, because as soon as I'm able to activate that, I might be worried about the fact that I might as well fall off by complete accident, so. But nothing matters anyway though, because, well, we seem to be able to be done with Gold Leaf Galaxy for now on, so now let's move on to Sea Slide Galaxy, and exponentially speaking though, hopefully we're able to actually collect some more, you know, power stars, and maybe potentially we can able to actually get ourselves our 6th Grand Star if we decide to. So either way though, so it looks like we're meeting up with Grubby again. So, but this time around though with Luigi in some cases though. And this is where the point where I think I highly recommend you do not use the, well, shaking the controller or mashing the Y button so many times because, well, as you can tell, the air meter is actually draining way too fast. So either way though, we still need to be very careful about this though, especially because, well, we just need to watch the air meter, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So anyway, so today's day is of course the 14th of October, as you probably already know, from the likes of in 2022 so far, and it looks like we're almost at the halfway point in terms of, well, October, before we move on to November, which means, you know what I mean, November will mark the release of, you know, Sonic Frontiers, as we already know, and also during the forms of this upcoming November, this will actually also mark the 10th anniversary of the release of the Wii U system, the most flopped Nintendo system of all, just because of its name, and you probably name the rest. So either way though, but we'll save that topic until whenever we get to that specific date and time, specifically the 18th of November specifically. So anyway though, let's talk about the forms of today's discussion, and that is the fact that, well, like I mentioned about this before, is the fact that I found the Nintendo Direct, the latest one, is okay, but I will say that this is by far my least favorite Directs in the entire, like, I will say this right about now though, there are some good parts for sure, which I've already mentioned about some good stuff here and there, which I was very excited about, for the majority of the forms of 2023's release, or in some cases though, some more DLC has been added though, and on top of all that stuff though, it's just the fact that I was excited for most things, well not all of them, just because, well, sense about the fact that I somehow managed able to say that I found the Direct okay, but it's not the best though, clearly because I've actually developed some new negative parts about the forms of that particular Direct, because obviously about the fact that, like I mentioned this before, the weakest aspect about the forms of the latest Direct though, is the fact that, for the love of God, that Direct has a lot of emphasis on JRPGs, as well as farming simulation games, which I know it seems a little bit controversial for most people out there, and no matter what though, it seems about the fact the matter is though, I think someone managed to point things out, is the fact that with those two segments in between the farming simulations, as well as JRPGs. Although I don't mind, you know, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, because I'm familiar with Cloud character himself, alongside with Zack, ever since and during the course of his cameo appearance from the likes of the forms of Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, specifically in Olympus Coliseum level. So either way though, that's as far as saying goes. And it's just the fact that it just really drags on, especially noticeable because no matter what though, each segment will actually take about 20 minutes out of 40 minutes, and that just seriously just ticks people off, especially because we were expecting to able to actually have something new. Like, aside from the fact that, you know, the biggest highlight for me, though, in terms of the Direct, as far as I look back on it, though, although I'll get to more than the details on that specific worth noting for until in a second, because this is the final time we'll be racing against with Cosmic Luigi, and as a result, that's the last Cosmic Luigi race. So, farewell, Cosmic Clone, until, well, Super Mario Galaxy 2 will be existent, but except the fact they'll act out a little bit differently, so there we go, 75 power stars, and yeah, we're almost there, folks, to, well, 120 power stars for sure. Although, relatively speaking, though, because, well, I just have no words to think about it, so anyway, as far as I can imagine, is the fact that, like I mentioned this before, I did look back on the forms of the Direct, the most recent Nintendo Direct, and then I just realized, gosh, this really is the most lackluster Nintendo Direct I've ever seen in my life. Because, as far as I'm aware though, because, again, it's just a lot of emphasis on JRPGs, which I don't mind, but it's just that it just feels a bit too much for my taste. And on top of all that stuff though, there's a lot of emphasis on farming simulation games, which doesn't make that much sense, because as a result though, if something goes big, then I might be alright with it, for platforming, and as well as fighting games, or party games for that matter. But then next you notice it's just, well, it just ticks people off, especially noticeable because, well, again, the only biggest highlight in terms of the latest Nintendo Direct, in my opinion though, it'll probably have to be by the forms of related to Mario, Kirby, and Zelda stuff. To be more specifically though, in terms of Mario stuff, obviously we've got more footage from the likes of Mario Plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope before the game comes out. And so, as I said before, we've only got about 6 more days to go until that game will come out. So I'm very excited about that. And on top of all that stuff though, the DLC for the likes of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Wave 3, despite the fact they only shows us 2 tracks out of 8. So, but either way though, it'll just take some time until they're able to actually show us the full reveal of, you know, the majority of the tracks from the likes of both the Rock Cup alongside with the forms of the Moon Cup, basically. So either way though, it just takes some time. Especially noticeable, I just somehow predicted about the fact that it will eventually going to be releasing at some point in either December or January or February, depending on stimulations. But I will say it will be on December for sure, just because, you know, Merry Melton exists, and it's basically Christmas themed, so it makes a pretty obvious sense, doesn't it? Anyway, and also Mario Strikers Battle League Football, where basically they revealed, you know, Pauline and Diddy Kong, the returning playable character from the likes of the forms of Strikers Charged. So as a result, I'm just really looking forward to able to play through Pauline in a football game, and also Diddy Kong ever since on the Wii. And as I said before, the only characters we do have left for returning playable characters department, it'll probably be PD Piranha and Bowser Jr., or Koopa Troopa, or Hammer Bro, depending on the forms of, you know, the roadmap of those 3 DLC updates kind of syndrome. So, and also, my favorite Wii games of all time, at least one of them anyway, Kirby's Return to Dreamland finally gets its, I made a mistake from the last video that I did say it's a remaster, but it turns out it's actually a remake of any sort, with all its updated visuals, as well as new sub-games they added in, alongside with the forms of the new ability that's actually exclusive to the remake. So as a result though, I somehow made a mistake from the last video, so I do apologize for that, but I'm still looking forward to it though, regardless. And also, you know, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, which, as a result, by that time and during the Forms event today, though, I will try my best to able to actually just to replay through The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and start all over again, and hopefully I will able to get my chance to, well, no! Oh god, I totally forgot about that! I've honestly have no idea why I just done that. Because I was able to then try, but then next you know is the fact that the invisible boundary just somehow blocked my path, so I honestly have no idea why I just did that. But that's okay though, because we can able to still grab some more, you know, star bits after death. So, but you lose all of your coins in the process. So that might be also the same thing from the likes of in Galaxy 2 as well. But as a result, though, there's not much else to write home about. So, anywho, though, because as a result, though, hopefully before when Tears of the Kingdom will be releasing on the Nintendo Switch, I should probably expect to play Breath of the Wild from now on, so just in case I can able to wait until that game will come out. And I think we've only got roughly about, I would say 7 months left, actually, until when that game comes out, for reals, so yeah, it should be all pretty much expected at this point. I know some people are very excited about the Forms of Pikmin 4 as well, despite I'm not, because let's just say, you know, as I said, I basically give up the series right now, just because, well, it's nothing bad or anything, don't get me wrong, but it's just the fact that I'm usually not very good at these types of games. The only game I'm actually surprisingly and ironically good at is actually Hey Pikmin on the 3DS, but that's about it, basically. It's just, well, I'm not very great at these types of games, but that's just me. But as a result, though, more power to you, especially noticeable because, well, it's entirely in my opinion, so everyone else's opinions are entirely different, so more power to you. Oh, and another negative thing I can think of is the fact that, somehow for whatever reason, when Miyamoto, mind you, I did like you, but it's just the fact that you tend to drag on with that particular Pikmin Balloon discussion, because I just have no idea why you spend about 5 minutes of this entire conversation about the trip outs and stuff like that with no new features and stuff like that. So I just have no idea why it just wasted about 5 minutes on that segment, so it doesn't make that much sense to me. And another thing too is the fact that they're missing quite a few games that everyone else was expecting for that particular direct. Like, where's the Forms of their new release date in terms of Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp? Because as a result, it still hasn't confirmed the release date yet, due to the Forms of the still ongoing invasion from the Ukraine with Russia. So because of this though, I just have no idea when that game is about to be finally gets its release date. But it's so hard to tell really, because either way, it just never ends, I'm telling you. It just never ends. So, but hopefully we'll get some confirmation about that until possibly by the end of the year or next year, depending on the forms of certain stimulations has been involved. So either way though, because chances are we still have no idea when that's going to be released. And another thing too, they still ended up not getting the forms of The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD alongside with Twilight Princess HD on the Nintendo Switch, because it looks like it's going to be stuck onto the Wii U forever. Forever! Forever! Kind of syndrome. And because of that though, this is one of the point I started able to give up on predictions at this point right now. And also, I don't usually still trust leakers and rumors anymore still, but that's only because they decide to troll you, because as a result though, I just seriously cannot stand leaks and rumors anymore, just because, well, it just really trying to able to ruin the surprise from the likes of several other gamers out there, including myself included. And on top of all that stuff though, no luck of the forms of new Donkey Kong game, and heck, even especially noticeable about the fact that they just somehow managed able to find the actual direct a bit more lackluster in comparison to the forms of the beginning of the year. Well, mind you, I found the beginning portion of 2022 is okay enough, but it's just the fact that I just seriously cannot even believe they just somehow got a lot of missed opportunities to able to add it in. Well, don't get me wrong, the entire presentation is okay, like I said before, but it's just that my problem with the forms of that particular presentation itself, despite the fact that it's missing some other titles that everyone else is predicting for, specifically when it comes to the forms of, you know, new games in general, for like, you know, well, let's just say a new Donkey Kong game, alongside with the forms of, let's just say a new 2D Mario game, or a 3D Mario game, because let's face it, it's been a very long time since we actually had a new 3D Mario game, at least technically if you want to count Bowser's Fury as a side mode, from the likes of in Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury ports of the game, but either way though, I just have no idea when the next 3D Mario game will take place, but we'll see what happens in due time. But anyway, and also no information on the DLC from Mario Party Superstars, sadly. But that's okay, because you can still able to experience the classic boards, thanks to, you know, NSO online services expansion pack. Because as a result, we finally got, you know, Mario Party 1, 2, and 3 in that particular bundle with that particular, you know, Nintendo Switch online membership services. So, but either way though, that's as far as I can usually try to describe about it, because either way though, well, it's hard to tell, I can imagine. And, another thing too is the fact that they still have no idea that the when it comes to the forms of any other series will be revived again, because as far as I'm aware, still no luck of you know, the remastered version of Kid Icarus Uprising, and as well as from that, still no revival of the forms of F-Zero games, because it's been almost like 20 years ago since we actually last seen the forms of the new F-Zero game, because technically the last one we did have is actually the Japanese exclusive, you know, F-Zero Climax, so for the Game Boy Advance anyway, and everyone else is so desperate for a new F-Zero game for sure, but it's just that, again, it's hard to tell, alongside with Star Fox at the moment, due to poor sales of, you know, Star Fox Zero for the Wii U, just because of its bad controls and stuff like that, but at least it does have some very amazing visuals for sure, but it's just a shame that particular game, sales-wise, didn't sell well, so... But anyway, let's get to the forms of another problem I have with the actual entire presentations themselves. It's the fact that, relatively speaking though, it just always picks, you know, JRPGs, farming games. Every time whenever we predicted something like other games in general, it's always what gets picked. Farming games, JRPGs, JRPGs. I had, for my predictions in the past month anyway, I do have, like, the new Mario Odyssey game, or a new 3D Mario game, or a new Donkey Kong game. I'll definitely take it. And also on top of all that stuff though, with, you know, ports of Zelda, The Wind Waker HD, and Twilight Princess HD, or anything else like that. I'm the only one managed able to predict those 4 things at once, because that way I'll able to enjoy the Nintendo Switch a lot more. Why does anything else always have to pick JRPGs or farming games in general? Don't you want variety? Don't you want change? Like, either way though, I'm just going for that saying about the fact that it just always picks those 2 categories all at once within these, like, different, like, I don't know what you would call it, because I keep on, like, I'm tired of able to actually hearing that, the farming music and stuff like that. I get it because of how the fact that they try to able to knock off something related to Animal Crossing and stuff like that, but it's just the fact that because I'm growing bored of the forms those farming games, footage keeps on showing up, including JRPG showcases, because I'm always seeing it. Nothing more. That is what does it for me. I'm tired of seeing farming games and JRPGs on this showcase. And another thing that grinds my gears, I'm tired of the forms of that particular, well, the actual specific segments that just doesn't seem to interest me. I mean, seriously, that is easily the weakest aspect about the forms of that particular presentation, because I'm tired of it, tired of the actual genre, tired of the forms of that harvesting kind of farming simulation, because I'm always seeing it. Blah! Anyway, enough about that. Sorry for that little massive rant around here, but regardless of such though, it's just... I just wish I was expecting to see something new or more than that. But anyway though, let's just head over to Toy Time Galaxy for now on, because obviously we've almost done with everything from the likes of Sea Slide Galaxy for sure, but it's just the fact that we still got a whole ways to go for, you know, one last mission coming up, but that won't be until for a long while, so to be expected at this point, so... But I don't know, what do you guys think? Because either way though, I'm just really sick of the forms of they trying to show us, you know, JRPGs. There's so many emphasis on JRPGs 24/7. Like, I almost first thought that they're expecting to able to have Chrono Trigger remake, but it turns out it didn't. So, but it's fine to able to have, you know, Fire Emblem Engage because it's a brand new installment of the Fire Emblem series, and also the sequel to Octopath Traveler 2, because obviously everyone else is pretty excited about the sequel to Octopath Traveler after all. But as far as everything else goes, jeez, I'm getting tired of these things. But anyway though, that's just me. Oh, I suppose I should probably mention about another thing I would like to say, is the fact that I think I saw one mention about this earlier, about the fact that I did have a massive rant. Well, a little bit of a rant about the forms of, yeah, I did manage to watch the remake version of Pinocchio recently for about a month ago, and because of that though, I just have no idea how on earth can I actually explain about this entire film itself. I mean, literally, relatively speaking, let's get to the forms of, well, suffice to say about the fact that, actually kind of think about it, there's thousands of things that's wrong about, you know, Pinocchio live-action adaptation. Like, usually relatively speaking though, there's a lot of problems I have with the film. So let's get this thing to it with my massive rant about the forms of how much I hated that film. Like, it sadly disappoints me, which is kind of a shame because the premise of this thing seems to be a bit more promising, but there are a lot of faults of the film itself. Like, obviously I'm gonna mention spoilers this time around though, just because, well, for those who have not seen the film yet, well, suffice to say, unfortunately you have no options because, obviously, well, if you've seen the original film already, I still highly recommend the original version from the likes of the 1940 version of it. But, on the other hand, the remake version, I repeat, I do not recommend it, because, well, let's start with the forms of some, well, some major problems with the film. First of all, the visuals look a bit too dark and a little bit too gloomy for my taste, and on top of all that stuff though, it's just the fact that it just doesn't feel that much colorful and vibrant anymore, which it makes it pretty obvious becomes the forms of certain live-action remakes Disney films every nowadays, and it starts to get boring after a while, and it starts to get tired really fast, especially noticeable because it just ruins the entire magic and spirit ever since any forms of in the original days. And on top of all that stuff though, in regards to the forms of the another problem I have with the actual film, is the fact that Pinocchio is irritating in the forms of in the remake. I mean, in the original version he's perfect in every way, but in the remake though, God, I can't stand his voice. And on top of all that stuff though, he doesn't really suit well for me for that entire voice. Although, either way though, I'll get more in a second, because here we have Luigi meets Mario. So instead of Mario meets Mario, instead it's now been replaced by Luigi's name on here. So, Luigi meets Mario indeed. But of course, before we get into that particular mission though, I'm gonna have to focusing on, you know, the secret mission first. So, that's to be expected I'm gonna be going after. So, anywho though, aside from all that stuff though, the musical numbers on the other hand though, it's not that very good. Especially noticeable that, well, there was that one thing that it did bother me a little bit. That is the fact that, well, relatively speaking, they removed two of those iconic music from the likes of the original version of the film. I'm talking about, let's say, Little Wooden Head. That's no longer there in the remake. And same applies to, Give It a Whistle. That's also not there. And I was like, what the hell, Disney? What the hell? I'm sorry for this little language, because that just really ticks me off. Because especially noticeable, it just ruins my nostalgia from the likes of the films in comparison to the original version of this amazing film. And on top of all that stuff though, Honest John looks very, very terrifying in a CGI format. And because of that though, yeah, and also another thing too, lack of expressions once again. So either way though, I just seriously just, wow, I just got no words. And on top of all that stuff though, there was that one in particular scene that I was very shocked about. Although mind you, I really wasn't able to give it some credit for, that Pleasure Island does look interesting at least, but It's just the fact that it just feels a lot of acid trip when it comes to likely how much you're gonna sit through when it comes to the forms of those lackluster live-action remakes this time around. I mean, anyway though, let's get to another negative thing, is the fact that remember the character of the Blue Fairy from the original film? Well, apparently, unlike in the original film that she only appears twice, or technically 3 if, well, let's just say she appeared twice to able to help out, well, one time that she will awaken Pinocchio for granting a wish, and she disappeared in a second time when, well, let's just say when she was trying to able to rescue Pinocchio from the likes of the forms of Strabano. I think that's what his name anyway though, despite it's been a very long while since I actually seen the original film. So either way though, but I still enjoyed it still. And on top of all that stuff though, she summons the bird, and then basically that they actually receives a message for them. However though, in a remake though, she appears once. She appeared once, and that's it. And on top of all that stuff though, she has a musical number. And it's not that very great, especially because, well, like I said before, they removed the entire two songs, which, like I said before, it's, you know, Give It a Whistle, Little Wooden Head, and that's basically all there is to it, and it's just, I just no idea why they do this. But anyway, maybe because they want to extend the actual certain scenes, like some scenes have been shortened, and certain scenes have been slightly longer than the rest. And, oh, and another thing too, some new characters they added in, I will say they're kind of unnecessary, like specifically Sophia the Seagull, which I found is a little bit obnoxious, especially noticeable it's like downward creepy at times. And also another thing too, is the fact that one of those lady puppets, they did manage able to show up every once in a while. I think it was okay, but it's not the best way to able to change things up a little bit. And I will say, Geppetto, like specifically Tom Hanks, the voice of Geppetto, is alright. Like, relatively speaking though, it's Tom Hanks, what you expect, because he did exactly the same voice as Woody, after all, from the Toy Story films. So as a result though, I think he's alright as playing as, you know, Geppetto at least, so... Oh, and another thing too, one of those scenes in particular, when Pinocchio runs away while he turned into a donkey, basically though, I don't find that necessarily all that terrifying to me though, unlike the ones how it does in the original version in my opinion, just because, again, the color and lighting just feels a bit dull, and on top of all that stuff though, one of the characters actually sweared in terms of whenever when Pinocchio fell into the cliff and fell into the water, one of the characters say something related to the B word. Like, I'm not gonna say this right about now, just because, well, obviously it'll get like somewhat restricted, you know, content blocked, or specifically, restrictions, I'm telling you, because either way though, because of the copper system. So anyway, and on top of all that stuff though, rather than just utilizing new forms within the donkey's tail in order to able to, like, well, remember in the original version of the film that one of those cool scenes of the Pinocchio, the original film, that as soon as when Pinocchio was trying to find his father, Geppetto, along with Jiminy Cricket, basically, they go into underwater with the most creative water effects, alongside with the forms of the creative art style, which I found was actually quite tricky in the original film. However, in a remake, doesn't do it, and instead, basically, Pinocchio just somehow turned back to normal within the quickest way imaginable by able to removing the donkey's ears and the donkey's tail, and as a result, instead of going underwater, they just somehow going jet skiing apparently with Sophia the Seagull, and that's basically all there is to it, nothing anything else detail about it. Oh, and another thing too, Monstro, in the original version of Monstro, he's terrifying and also a little bit more intimidating, and also as a result though, that I just really love the fact that every time when he swims about, that he kind of reminds me like an auto train or something like that. I don't know about you, but that's how it is for me. But in a live-action remake though, whatever, for some stupid reason, they just put in not only the whale formation, which is obvious sense, but out of nowhere, he got tentacles with it. And I was like, really? Really? Why did they able to change this? Oh jeez, this does hurt my brain, or this hurts my head. Anyway, but that doesn't stop here, because, relatively speaking though, rather than, well, it does manage able to add in a, well, obviously they did remove the cigarette, bit from the likes of ever since the original version of the film, because, well, I just have no idea why they're going for this change. And, on top of all that stuff though, in the finale portion, and this is where the spoilers comes in, and that is, excuse me, and that is the fact that, well, relatively speaking though, rather than having yourselves the actual rafting from the likes of the forms of the original version of the film, like, relatively speaking though, it's hard to explain, but apparently Pinocchio can somehow manage able to run on water. I mean, what is this? He borrowed the move from the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 2? Okay. And, also the ending though, instead of Pinocchio dying, instead Geppetto was dying. And because of that though, this is what it does manage to break my heart whenever I saw the ending of the remake. Remember in the original version of the film, when, Pinocchio somehow dies, basically though after saving Geppetto basically, and then he somehow managed able to get carried back home by Geppetto, and basically though, Geppetto was upset because obviously Pinocchio cannot wake up, but thankfully the Blue Fairy just somehow managed able to make him alive, but except rather than staying in a puppet this whole time, so instead he actually become a real boy. And Geppetto was very happy about, and, you know, Figaro and Cleo just somehow celebrated that, you know, Pinocchio becomes a boy after all. And on top of all that stuff though, in the ending portion of the original version of the film, in 1940 film specifically, Jiminy Cricket receives the actual conscience badge, which is a very nice little intriguing reward between both Pinocchio and Jiminy Cricket at the same time. What happens in a remake? Well, there's nothing. Nothing at all. I'm not kidding. Basically, all it shows us is just, well, Pinocchio and Geppetto are walking straight to the cave when there's a shiny bit, and nothing happens to Pinocchio's change or appearances, or Jiminy Cricket does not receive any conscience badge or anything else like that. Nothing. Nothing at all. And my reaction to that is, sorry for that little bit of a scream earlier, just because I will say this is easily one of the worst live-action Disney remakes out of every single one of them. No contest. Like, relatively speaking, just no contest. So I believe for that particular film of Pinocchio live-action remake, definitely deserves a massive failure trophy. Congratulations, Pinocchio, for able to disappoint me for the... I'm not talking about the original version, because the original version is timeless classic in my opinion, but as far as the remake goes, whoosh, it just looks... I'm just getting ticked off. Like, literally, this is why the point I'm starting to get tired of these Disney live-action remakes every once in a while, because I just think it will just get worse and worse, until by that when years decides to come. I don't know, what would you guys think about the forms of the live-action Pinocchio movie? I mean, I found it one of the worst films I've ever seen. Alongside with the forms of some other films in general too, like in the past years or so. Like, I will say that still the Emoji Movie is one of the worst films I've ever seen, but as far as live-action movies goes, Pinocchio is easily the worst. Like, seriously, it just ruins my nostalgia. Hey, anyway, enough about that. Sorry for a little bit of a massive rant about this terrible live-action adaptation of the film, and it just ticks me off, you know. But anyway, another thing I sort of forgot to mention about, especially noticeable, that I've already mentioned about quite a few bits and bobs from the likes of the forms of certain Disney announcements recently. Like, I've already mentioned about the fact that they've got ourselves the live-action movies out of the way. Like, as I said, they're getting, you know, The Little Mermaid, Peter Pan and Wendy, Snow White, Mufasa, The Lion King, and also Haunted Mansion, as well as some new trailers they've got for Hocus Pocus 2, which it already did manage to be released ever since about a couple of weeks ago, and also Disenchanted, which is basically the sequel to Enchanted from the likes of Sense in 2007, so at least that's something going for it. But there are some other announcements I forgot to mention about, and that is the fact that they've shown us the logo of Disney 100 Years logo, which I will say it does look very intriguing. And also on top of all that stuff though, they've shown us some more infos about when it comes to Walt Disney Animation Studios though, we also managed to get ourselves some infos based off from the likes of not only the films of 4 films, but also some new series as well, I believe so. Like, for instance, the first one we have is Wish, which it does look very interesting to say the least. And on top of all that stuff though, is the fact that we got some more stuff about Strange World, and also Zootopia Plus. And as a result, I'm looking forward to Zootopia Plus, because after the events of when the actual feature film came out, ever since about 6 years ago now, that's basically, I'm just really looking forward to see what's going to be up next for, I would say Judy and, I can't remember what this fox's name is called, by the way, because it's been a very long time since I actually watched Zootopia, or Zootropolis, for those of you who lived in the UK, and I suppose that's about that. So, oh, and another thing too, in terms of Pixar Animation Studios films as far as I'm concerned, obviously I'm already excited about the films of Inside Out 2, because as far as I'm aware, they did say about the fact that they'll come across into new emotions for like new characters and stuff like that, which I'm always going to be excited about, especially just trying to able to expand upon everything for the likes of the films of what's so great about the first film in the first place, and it still say it's going to be coming until summer 2024, so that'll be 2 years time now. And also on top of all that stuff, they've shown us ourselves some more info and a first look on the forms of Elemental, which is basically it's like a new Pixar film that's about to be releasing until at some point next year. And there's also the forms of another film that's going to be releasing during at some point until 2 years time as well, except it's going to be on spring. And as a result, its name was Ello. So, I think it's like something related to dream vibes to it though, which I haven't exactly looked upon that much information on that, somehow. But regardless of such though, I might be interested with that. And also we got ourselves, the new series has been announced, and that's what it appears to be, Win or Lose. So, that's interesting, to say the least. And as far as Disney Plus exclusive as far as this is concerned, we're actually getting ourselves the next film based off from Santa Claus, from Tim Allen, which it's been a very long while actually since we actually last seen the Santa Claus movie since that lackluster third film, which features like Jack Frost and stuff like that. Oh gosh, that was I'll shut up phone. Sorry about that little bit of a ringtone, because I think one of those notifications saying My Little Pony Game Loft game, because, well, it's been a very long while since I actually played a game, so I do apologize for that ringtone noise, so I do apologize for that. So anyway, for the next new film when it comes to the films of the Santa Claus film series, despite the third film was actually very lackluster in comparison, just because of all that awkward moments here and there, and I just feel like Snorefest when it comes to the third film. But thankfully, in the next film, there's going to be on Disney Plus exclusive, that's going to be at some point in this year, which appears to be the Santa Clauses. So, and I believe Tim Allen is going to be back from the likes of the actual next film of the series, so I might be interested with it. And there's also these 2 new series that are about to be brings us to the table, which appears to be Percy Jackson and the Olympians, so that's interesting, as well as Natural Treasure Edge of History, and as well as a documentary film, which appears to be Mickey, the Story of a Mouse. So, yeah, it's actually very interesting. So, and also they mentioned about more stuff about Marvel Studios films, which I think I already mentioned about these briefly, so there's no commented on that. But there's actually that one specific topic I forgot to mention about, that is the forms of Lucasfilm's department. So in this case, we actually had quite a few stuff from the likes of Star Wars, as well as one of those random stuff that is usually on here, despite I haven't really looked up on it though. And also they finally mentioned something related to the long-awaited series that has been out for quite a long time now, ever since about 15 years ago, ever since in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But I'll explain more on that in a second. So anyway, so here we go with this particular boss fight ever since in Good Egg Galaxy, and this will be the final time seeing him in action, because after when he's basically done and over with, basically we're no longer going to be seeing him until Galaxy 2 exists. So anyway, in terms of Star Wars stuff they added in, they've actually got Star Wars Andor, and as well as Star Wars Ahsoka, and especially noticeable with Star Wars Skeleton Crew, and even especially noticeable with Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, and especially noticeable with the next season, in regards to the forms of the Bad Batch and the Mandalorian. So, for instance, the Bad Batch is gonna get the second season, and the Mandalorian gets the third season, so that should be quite intriguing, actually. And on top of that, Willow is also getting its appearances as well. And finally, for the Lucasfilms, as far as discussions as far as this is concerned, basically they've mentioned Indiana Jones 5. And as a result, though, it's expected to be released at some point next year, as we already expected. And I think, for we've seen the actual, the outfits there's going to be appearance on, I think it's going to be more likely emphasis on the forms of time travel or something. But either way, though, we haven't exactly known about the actual film too much yet, but we'll see what happens during at some point next year. So, yeah, I guess that's that. So now we've opened up the 6th and the final dome. As you can see on screen, we've now actually access to, well, the Golden Dome. In this case, the most peaceful, domes ever existed. So, and I think we should probably do one more mission from now on, though, which appears to be, is going to be the Hungry Loomis level. So as a result, though, once we're done with that, then I can basically end off the video for the sake of time. So, and yeah, that's as far as I can talk about for the sake of today's discussion, folks. And, well, suffice to say, I'm not exactly sure of what's going to be happening next for the sake of the forms of the Nintendo Direct systems, because as far as I'm aware, since I think the entire Nintendo Directs, specifically the general ones, for 2022, is basically done and completed. So, I suppose the next one in the lineup will have to be by the forms of, let's just say, sometime in, the beginning of 2023. So, I was thinking about that. So, because of that, though, let's just hope that 2023 will be a lot more exciting than the forms of how it does in the previous years for sure. But either way, though, it does look very promising. So, despite a lot of emphasis on farming games and JRPGs sometimes. But I like grass. So anyways, let's get this thing to it with this mission round here. Now, ever since in the Mario's playthrough, that I somehow managed able to use the bee mushroom. So I thought to myself, let's do the easiest route this time around though with Luigi by able to transform into Boo Luigi basically. So either way though, just gotta have to make sure we do need to able to dodge these searchlights and also a lot of water. Well, specifically with those flood-like water bubbles as far as we need to avoid. And on top of all that stuff though, just boos in general, that if you dare get hit by those boos, then obviously you will get hit and get knocked back by the sinkhole and then you die instantly. Oh, and also you're able to disagrade your transformation by simply come towards the light, so it makes pretty obvious sense. So, oh, come on, come on, come on, yes! Alright. Shortcut for the win, especially noticeable with that giant leaps of faith, so nicely done. And I think suffice to say that, yeah, we're getting close towards the very end of Luigi's playthrough. So, how much stars we've got? 85, so that seems quite a lot. So, anyway, suffice to say, I think we should probably end things off at this point right here, so join me next time for more of Let's Play of Super Luigi Galaxy in the Super Mario 3D All-Stars game. Is the fact that we're about to be able to get into the Gateway Galaxy first, and also obtain the Red Star, and also we can able to explore the rest of the Golden Dome. So I'll see you guys at some point on next Monday. Later, fellas.